and welcome. You are listening to the Still Standing podcast, hosted by Daniela Galdi, the founder of Still Standing Together, a support and empowerment organization that helps you get back on your feet. The Still Standing podcast offers you interviews, guidance, and solutions through everyday struggles and mental health improvement. Welcome back, everybody, to a new episode of Still Standing Podcast. We are talking about forgiveness today with Joi Rychelle, the creator of Essentially Connected. She's also a health and wellness coach, and she is going to help us through with some meditations as well as her own experiences of tools that have helped her to find peace and love throughout her daily routine, and helping us to work through our own pain within ourselves, but also working through relationships that caused toxicity in our lives, trauma, or we found we were unable to move forward from based on what we experienced with that other person. So remember, what we're going to learn from Joi and what we'll always talk about throughout your mental health journey is how we are in control of our feelings. We are in control of ourselves. We cannot change what other people do or their actions or their words, but we can make sure that we know and manage ourselves with all of these tools, all of these practices, anything that helps you to find that peace of mind, to stay on top of our own health and our own happiness. For our current listeners or any new listeners out there, we welcome you into this journey with us and this community that continues to grow and connect one another. And we hope that you reach out to us if you have any questions, if you have any revelations, if you've had any breakthroughs for yourself after listening to our podcast episodes. You can reach out to us at stillstandingtogether@gmail.com. or find us on Instagram and Facebook at Still Standing Together. Hello, Joi. Thank you so much for being on the Still Standing podcast.
Thank you. So honored to be here. Namaste.
Oh, namaste. I know I already feel, even though you have the best energy, I feel like at peace with you already. And we felt that like the first time we talked on the phone too.
Absolutely, that we did.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me here, Goddess. Really honored.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here. I love that we, Still Standing Together is all about like connections, and your bestie, Pamela Campbell, has been a part of Still Standing podcasts and workshops and support groups. So that's how, shout out to Pam, because that is how we got connected. And I'm so happy that she did that.
Yes, I love how she navigates through life.
I know.
She's definitely a huge giver, and she's just like a stand for everybody to be in their purpose and to walk in their purpose. And I love that.
Oh, I love it. Well, so I can't wait till, I know, I agree. She's so great with all her transformative work. But I want people to know, because greatness connects with other great people. And so
Absolutely.
She has brought you to us. And so, before we get into yourself and your story and your experience and, our talk on forgiveness today, just, I like to ask, how's your day going? How's your morning going?
My morning is awesome. My new schedule is basically I'm up at like 4 a.m., 4:15 a.m. The crazy thing about today is I woke up late, a little later than usual, because we had a fire in my building last night. And the funny part is, we'll get into this at in the story. But for those who don't know me, I love fitness. And this is why I'm in this work. And I was in the middle of a digital workout, because I'm in a 4-week intensive training program at my boxing studio. So I had on a little sports bra, some short shorts. I heard the fire alarm, and then I'm like, what is that? Is it the workout? Like, is something going on when he's talking? He's like, keep going. So I'm like, maybe it's not the video. And I open my front door and I poke my head. I'm like, okay, none of my neighbors, I don't see any smoke. None of my neighbors are like like coming out looking. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's nothing. I go back to like doing my thing. And then I hear boom, 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 get out, get out. It's like the police banging on everybody's door. And then it's smoke in the hallway. So I'm like, oh my God, like I have on no clothes. I'm like, let's just grab my jacket. I left my phone here and just grabbed my jacket and grabbed my keys and like rolled out. And so
Oh my goodness, my jaw is dropped.
yeah, it was so interesting to be in that experience. So it's just like I'm still recouping from that, like being interrupted. Thank God it didn't happen in the middle of the night. It was still like early evening because they were here for 3.5 hours. And they had to like they brought a saw in, they brought a all the firemen walking in with their axes. So it was interesting. And they said it was something around the laundry room. And my apartment is right by the laundry room. So I was like, I wonder if I'm going to come back in my house and it's going to be like a hole in my wall.
Oh my goodness. Was
Yes,
everything okay though?
everything's okay. And so, yeah, it was just like, smoky when I came in. We're getting that taken care of here. But I'm just grateful everybody was safe. There was a dog caught in here, I heard. I guess they got the dog out. I didn't hear anything yet about like any animals dying because we have a pet-friendly building. So a lot of the people here have cats and dogs. But everybody got out safely. And one thing I realized and this is what meditation has definitely taught me, and just forgiveness work in general, is to be able to detach from my self-centeredness and look at the bigger scope of things and observe. So I was really observing. I was kind of tired too, so I wasn't really like mingling with my next door neighbors. Like one of my neighbors finally came up to me. She like they look out for me. So she was like, "Do you want my pants?" And go sit in the car, like after an hour and a half. But what it really made me realize was like, one, this fire could have destroyed our building. I am so grateful it didn't. I'm so grateful to have a home. And I'm just so grateful that everybody got out safe. I didn't even bring my phone because my phone is like, it's not a big deal to me. As long as everything's backed up, I care more about my life and the life and the safety of others than like grabbing my phone or anything like that. So I didn't grab any phone, money, my wallet. But I thought about that this morning, like, wow, like it could have looked so different last night, and I get to wake up early and be of service to this client right now. And like, I get to come back home to my beautiful sanctuary of a home and work out of my home the rest of the day. And I'm just so grateful I still have a home, because I've watched many stories on the news where it didn't turn out like this, and that fire actually started on the second floor and it was starting to travel. So we're only 3 floors. Luckily, we're not like a high rise building. We're actually in a known historical landmark in Jersey City. The building is really cool. It was a schoolhouse in the 1800s. And so like, it would be devastating to have that burned to the ground,
Wow, yeah.
So it made me realize I just take it out of myself. Yes, I was hungry. Yes, I was in the middle of my workout and training. Yes, it was a small interruption in life, but on the grander scope of things, that like all that little stuff we make it about us all the time is like minute. It's like there's people
Absolutely.
homeless living out on the street that don't have homes from a fire, so
It's so
I'm
powerful.
just
I mean,
grateful.
I'm
So grateful.
so
So
grateful
that,
you were okay.
that was my exciting night. Yeah.
I was
That was
not
my exciting night
expecting
that kind of
that.
like fell over into the morning. Yeah.
Well, to our listeners, Joy had mentioned to me before we started recording, she had an interesting morning and night. So I was not expecting that, but I'm so grateful you're okay. And you read my mind, because immediately I wanted to ask you, what perspective did that put you in, or, and you've answered that. So my next question, I guess, if it's all right to go ahead and ask, is a lot of these things are unexpected. I mean, a lot of the work I put out and things I do for myself it's preventative, even in terms of health and fitness. We all do things to be preventative. But when the unexpected happens, we can't control that. It's out of our control. Was there something that you did when you were finally back in your house and back in your apartment and just settled with that realization of, like, thank goodness that I was able to come back in and continue?
Yeah. I didn't do any, in my practices. I kind of wanted to meditate, but it was getting late. So I was like, I know I need to wake up early and none of my stuff is ready. So I kind of
Right.
just like grounded in, and it smelled like a lot of smoke. They tore the laundry room up. There's like a big hole in the hallway. So I did take video of that just to like show my family. And I just came in and I just felt a huge sense of love and gratitude in my heart for this place. And I'll go into that later with my story, but there's other things that happened with my home out of chaos where I put myself in situations where I could have lost this home. Granted, this wasn't beyond my control if I would have lost it, but this is part of my spiritual practice, but it was for functional reasons too. I instantly like got all 3 of my essential oil diffusers out. Just like, what blend would be good right now to clean the air and not have it smell so much like smoke? And I just like put up my windows and like just started grounding in to get ready for the next day. But I love that you asked that question, because still being in the energy and the thought of, wow, how amazing did this turn out? I could have walked in here with some complaining energy and just been like so upset. And I was just like, I'm hungry. I still get to have dinner. Like, I'm just going to eat and try to get and work to get ready for the next day, because I do need to go to bed soon, but still in that mindset of like, thank you, source, thank you. And this is just another stamp in allowing me to continue to walk in gratitude, and forgiveness. Forgiveness has taught me to practice a deep sense of gratitude for that situation or whatever I'm forgiving in that moment in time.
I'm so grateful to
Okay.
you for sharing that, because it was unexpected for both of us. Granted, you went through it, but I think a lot of times I have people ask me, and even for myself, I ask, living in gratitude can help. Living in gratitude can help your mental health. Living in gratitude can help so many things. And sometimes there's some conflict with it, or sometimes there's some frustration with it. And I really think that your example of that situation that happened and how you explained how you're feeling now, Joy, is such a perfect example of where gratitude comes in, and where we find that that gratitude mindset can help us stay grounded during these situations. So thank you, because that is such a perfect example for anybody who's been conflicted with, well, I'm saying thankful. I remember one time admitting I thanked my dishes. Like I was thanking everything, but I don't know if I was fully understanding the thankfulness and the gratitude concept yet.
Right,
So
right,
that was a perfect example.
right, right. But sometimes that's the blessing, and it's like act as if.
Yes.
The understanding may come later.
Exactly. Well, let's get into your story, because you mentioned
Do it.
that you mentioned a lot of things that you want to talk about, and your
Yeah.
story is, I know a little bit about it, but I want to hear more.
Okay. It's multi-layered. I find it difficult of where to start. Um, but I guess I will start with why I do what I do and why I'm such a stand for, since this is all about still standing together. And I use the word stand a lot, especially when I'm on like intro calls with potential clients and just in my own like social media content and just talking with someone. So why I'm a huge passionate stand for people being well. And I love that this focuses a lot too around mental health, because meditation is medicine for you to stay healthy mentally, scientifically proven now, and also spiritually and emotionally and physically proven. And I'm pivoting now to more of health and wellness for men. But why I'm a strong stand just in general for health and wellness for men and for everyone on this planet is because I'm a walking testament of what it can do for you. And also part of my story and the why I wake up is I was very close to my grandmother. And what I loved about my family is, a lot of people here in the Western world tend to just, in no judgment, can throw their elders into a home and, it might work out for you like that. And I don't understand. I mean, and I understand that, no judgment around people who do that. But what I love that my family didn't do that to my grandmother. And she had a lot of health issues, suffering from depression for years. She was actually put in a mental institution when she was in her 20s, and she already had like 4 children by then. I don't know why she was put there, maybe because of lack of understanding. And at that time, they just wanted to throw people in like and define everybody as loony instead of getting to the root cause and give you medicine. So she suffered from depression for a very long time. She was obese. She had type 2 diabetes and hypertension, all this until her death, until her last breath. And what led her to her last breath was she actually had a hip injury. And I truly believe, and I always say this, had she been mentally stable and just like had the tools handed to her or been exposed to like being healthy and always looking at your life as a whole, I feel like she would have survived that hip injury and might have still been living right now, you know, because she was young. She was only in her 70s when she passed away. So my mom took her in different years of my lifetime, and I was really close to her. So I got to see her function throughout life, and just such a beautiful spirit and woman, just would give her last breath and shirt off her back, especially for her children and everybody. And she loved to cook too. And she just loved being a grandmother too. Like she was really excited by that. She wasn't well. And so I saw her like deteriorate in different, you know, aspects. And that has always fueled me because I'm like, if I had the capacity in any shape or form to like shave years off of somebody's life and have them really and support them with really stepping into the vision of themselves that they see, that they may not even start off seeing, but I see for them, then this is why I do this. And it took me a while to go through my own bouts of depression. I've never taken medicine. I refuse. I live holistically, but not everybody has the capacity to do that in my family. And that runs in my bloodline. And alcoholism and drug use is running my bloodline. So just from seeing that too, you know, that's why I'm such a stan for not only my own transformation and my health and wellness journey, which always a work in progress, but definitely that's why I went into this business, you know. So that's where my why started out. And then going into my story, you know, let's speed this up. I worked several, you know, jobs, but I went to college for marketing, advertising. I used to work in entertainment PR for a bit, but then I started getting into bartending just because like moving to New York City is like, you need money. So like, you need money to live. I put myself through college. Like it was not like, you know, so I started bartending and then I started waitressing. And at one point in my life, I think I made this choice like 2000, into 2009, going into 2010, I was like, I'm just going to work at night full time. Cause at the time I like wanted to write a book and do all these other things. And I was like, I can't work in an office anymore. Like I'm working in an office and working at night. And I stayed in that industry much longer than I thought I would because the money is great. I met some really great people. I still have friends now who I met at different bars and nightclubs that I've worked. And I worked a lot of higher volume places. So I was constantly making money, not constantly always saving it. But that being in that industry taught me a lot, but it also ran me down health wise, just spiritually, emotionally, energetically, because it's always like go, 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 go. You don't always get to eat, or when you're eating, you're just like stuffing food down your face and like just go, you know. So that made me look in a lot within myself. And also at the time I was working so much that my relationships were suffering too. This is where Pam comes into the picture because I've known her for so long. She came to my house to get her chairs. Make a long story short, she had drank some happy juice, some happy Kool-Aid. I was like, what in the world has gotten into you? And at that time, it was in 2010, 11, I was very depressed. I didn't really express that to anybody, but it got to a point where I was just laying on my couch, crying a lot. And then I would just wake up and go to work. I would turn myself on to make money and support myself. But when I came home behind closed doors, I was just like spinning, you know, just like so sad and just so like, what am I doing with my life? What is the next thing? I didn't really have a connection to source.
I have a quick question
Yeah.
for that. I love to hear about when that switch happened because everybody's pivotal moment is different, but also so related in the same way. Same thing for myself. And thank you for sharing about your depression and things that you have to overcome and manage. Because I have depression as well. And I am just so curious as to how people make that switch, because for me, it was getting to rock bottom in every single area. And I personally, if we can prevent that for people, I want to, because, you know, I do understand too that we have to get to that place sometimes to then lift ourselves back up, but it's a really hard place to get out of when you're down there. So I like to ask for our listeners, do you know, was there like a moment, was there a person, I know you mentioned Pam, was there an experience where it just kind of flipped and you were like, I cannot live like this anymore. I need to start to take better care of myself?
I'm glad you asked me that. I think it was a stack of different moments that led me to a bigger moment, because it was just like at the point, the funny thing is I was hitting bottom spiritually, emotionally, kind of physically, like not having a lot of energy, but not like, you know, not the look. Obviously, I'm like naturally small. So, but it was definitely physically, emotionally, I was feeling it. And I was tired a lot all the time because I was just working a lot nonstop. Granted, my bank account wasn't suffering, but I noticed like my relationships were suffering, my connection to source, I didn't really have one, or it was like suffering. It was like in a weird place. And I just didn't know who to talk to. You know, my relationship with my family was not too great. It was like, okay, but it wasn't like close knit, you know, it didn't feel like completely like home, like how it does now. So I started to took notice of that, but it was really taking notice too, like, why am I coming home every day and laying on my sofa, just crying profusely and like literally going to sleep here? I have a bed, just like crying, laying on my bed, blah, blah, blah. And then the defining moment too is when, because me, Pam, and I ironically weren't really talking, but I agreed to keep these chairs in her house while she was just like in the transition of moving. And when she came to get them, it was like an angel sent her here. Her friend brought her here, and she gave me the biggest hug, and I was just so happy to see her. And I was just like, wow, I missed this. I missed having this with my friends. And why is she so damn happy? So then, you know, we talked and we were connected after she got her chairs. And then she told me about momentum education and really going into that experience. Just like, I mean, I believe it, like it's karma. A lot of people think karma is like, oh, what comes around goes around and you're going to get paid back. It actually doesn't mean that. The word karma in Sanskrit means action. And so that's it. There's a law to it, like law of attraction, law of gravity. So whatever karma you're going to put back, it is going to affect you in this life and past lives, in future lives, if you believe in that. But so it was just like, I started to take, so momentum going into that program. I actually just went to like an intro thing and I was just like, why is everybody here so happy? Like what the hell did I just drop myself into? But at the same time, I felt drawn to it. So that was another defining moment. Like, I feel drawn to this work. Why? So I got curious and I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to jump in to their level 1 basic. And like, it all started from there. And I did not think, because you could pay for like all 3 level. I didn't know you could like pay for all 3 experiences. And I was just, we keep diving in, because the first level of that program is all about discovery and discovering yourself. You know, they always say like, you don't know what you don't know, right? And I love that was the first thing when I walked into that room to do that training. I was like, you don't know what you don't know. What? But it like stuck with me. And now on the other side of that, I get it. Like, I was on my couch, I didn't know what I didn't know, and I discovered it there. So that opened me up. After I finished that program, it opened me up to getting therapy. I shunned therapists and getting therapy. I used to judge people. That's a big energy. That was a big, I'll speak from a woman of color. That was a big theme in the Black community. Like, we don't need help with that. Like, crazy people go to therapists, but it opened me up. And my first therapist, she used to be a yoga instructor. So she was definitely highly in the spiritual realm, which I loved. And I feel like I needed that. So I started going to her group therapy, started seeing her privately. I then really went into getting myself correct fitness in 2014. I hired 2 trainers and a nutritionist who I just happened to meet on a trip. So it's just like, you see, taking one action and committing to like my own transformation led to all these other things, but I hit bottom again in 2015. I got eczema. Part of my hair was falling out. I got it really bad on my face. One of my friends called me. She was leaving the finance industry. She's like, I think I'm gonna get my Pilates certification. I was like, go girl, you love Pilates, do it. She didn't do it. She calls me like the next week. I think I'm gonna get my yoga certification. I was like, do it. You love it. And then I had an idea. I was like, look, I know you love to travel. I'm gonna do this. My other friend, Jody, she's a yoga instructor. I know she went to India. I know you would love it. So let me get the information. And in searching in the information for her, I felt called to like, I want to go. In the same thing, I'm training under these trainers. And one of the trainers said to me, what do you love? What brings you joy, like as far as working out, or something like we can put in your workout plan. I was like, yoga. I want to get back to yoga. I haven't been there and I haven't been committed to it for like a year and a half. And one of the trainers, she was like, we're going to you have a yoga day. That's your active recovery day, along with your other workouts. As we're working with your goals, you have to go to yoga on this day. And that opened me up. And I didn't know why I was touched by yoga spiritually. I just couldn't understand it. I was like, okay, I feel like I'm here more for fitness, but I feel deeply touched now, because now at this point I've done some transformational work. I've been in therapy. So I'm just completely different. I've been more open and accepting of seeking, I would say, and transforming myself. So then I ended up going to India with her. And same thing like you, Daniela, act as if. I was like, I don't know if I should go, but what I'm going to do is apply for my visa and try to plan out the money on a spreadsheet. If I get my visa, that is a sign from source. I'm meant to go. Because at this point now, I'm a waitress at one high-end rooftop, and I'm a bartender at another little mini club, and I was working myself to death, and in a lot of debt too. And I think that's why I got eczema. And then I used some cream. At this point, I'm using all natural stuff. I used some cream. It was too much for my hair. My hair fell out in the front, and I was just like so upset. And I just didn't feel. I was like, I feel like there's another level like I get to go to. I'm kind of like stable, but there's more work to be done. And I know I just have a feeling my hair is going to grow back if I leave and go do this program. And I did. My hair grew back. I got some Ayurvedic stuff from India, and I went to India to study yoga, study the roots, and get my certification with my friend. And that was a life-changing moment. And I was hitting bottom then, because I was like stressed out just from like working so much, debt I had created. I was trying to figure out, where next to navigate. And I knew at that point too, I didn't want to be a waitress and a bartender anymore. And no, not knocking that. I'm so grateful for those experiences and the money it's brought me. And that led me to India. So that's part of the story. The next layer is like coming back and trying to get my footing in it here on the eastern side of the world, and trying not to bartend anymore. Don't know how much money I'm gonna make. So that's why I was like, I told you I risked losing my house, because I actually went into foreclosure 4 times after trying to get on my feet,
Wow.
Dealing with stuff. We're just trying to recreate myself career-wise and walking in my purpose, trying to like follow that. It was a lot.
I commend you though, Joi, because there's so many powerful moments in there, and I can relate to a lot of them as well as you're saying it. And I think actually a lot of the listeners will also, when I explain it like this. So you mentioned about you're going through this transformation, but there still was that almost a residual of your life before your transformation, which I would say and point out was the waitressing and the bartending and any type, not the type of job, but because it was something that didn't feel like you anymore. It sounds like it didn't align with you anymore. And
correct.
So something still maybe felt off. But what I love in your story and your journey of going through this is you mentioned 2 really important things that I want to point out. You trusted yourself to go towards what you were drawn to. We can call it instinct, we can call it trusting your gut, we can call it intuition. But the word drawn to, I think, is a bit more effective, because we all do know those things, those people that we feel, you just don't think about it. You don't think twice, you just do it. And so that was a really, for me, when I was listening to what you were saying, an overlying theme that kept coming up. You were drawn to it and you went with it. And I kept thinking, wow, that's so incredible. She trusted herself, because that's such a hard thing for many of us. And so I want to commend you for that, and just pointed out that it's so important, because look at where it's gotten you now. So when we feel drawn to those things or those people, to go for that, so that was one thing that really was powerful for me. And then the second thing was the word commitment. The commitment portion, I have to commend you for as well, because again, it's that commitment to sticking to what in the future will be best for you, even if it's difficult or uncomfortable or unfamiliar for us right now. The commitment part is so huge. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you've ever realized those two things, but listening to your story, that's what I took from that. I was like, wow, those were two very hard, I feel like very difficult actions, or, new ways of thinking, or new, I guess action would be the right word. So it's funny, because you said karma means action. So you were living.
Yes.
So it just, I wanted to point that out to you and to our listeners about those two very important things, that if we can stay committed to what we're working on, beautiful things happen. You're an example of that,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out. And also, I've been saying this a lot too, being willing to lean in and pay for the support to get you to the next step too, to that bigger vision, because I didn't do it by myself, and they worked with me, but I was afraid, because I was like, okay, am I going to put out money for this? Am I not? Like what? But I just, like you said, I felt drawn and I felt called, and I was like, this work is just like hitting me on so many levels. I feel like it is my duty to step into being willing to be even more uncomfortable. And so I'm uncomfortable like paying for this financially, and I'm also uncomfortable because now we're stepping into territory like I'm going to have to face and reveal about myself, and also step into new territory of things like I get to create, And, I paid for a therapist. She was not cheap, but she was worth every penny. And because of her and the work we did together, that's why I'm here. And paying for those trainers and coaches, they weren't cheap either. And they were training me virtually. They lived in Texas. They were training me virtually before training virtually was like a thing. I was like, oh, this is hot. Like, I feel like some people will make fun of this and be like, how can you possibly train with a trainer and they're not there? But and they were coaches too. So we had coaching time on the phone, scheduled separately for my training workouts. And, they were just so instrumental in my transformation. And one of them I'm still good friends with, Paul. I always thank him. I always send him little messages like, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be the woman I am today. Just working with you in so many different ways. And I always look back on that, wow. And I love what you said, drawn to the people, because how I met them, one of the trainers, Eileen, the female trainer, I saw them walking, and we had a break at this conference I was at. We had a break and I saw them walking together, and I was like, damn, they look good. Together, they look so hot. And they had on all black and their fitness work outfits. And I happened to be in the bathroom the same time she was. And I feel like the same thing. I felt drawn to say something to her. I was like, excuse me, is that your boyfriend? Because you two look so great together. I guess it was just it almost made me feel like that's me and my future version of myself and the man I'm going to be with. I don't know. It felt that way. I didn't know it then, but it felt that way. And I got so lit up by seeing them just walk down the hallway together. Right. And she was like, that's not my boyfriend. That's my business partner. And then I was like, what do you do? And then that's when she told me, and I was like, oh my gosh, and at this point I wasn't happy with my body, because I didn't feel toned. I didn't feel strong enough. I wasn't eating the way I really like I wasn't eating as fresh and as whole as I wanted to. Like I said, I'm always a work in progress, still more work to be done. And I just felt like, looking back, that was such a defining moment. And like, I just felt like it was a divine moment. Like God was like, here, there you go for the next part of your journey. But are you willing to step into it or not? Paying for the support too, and having someone hold me accountable through this journey has been instrumental and life-changing and worth every bit of money I paid.
I completely agree with you. It's a tough part because for me too, Joy, with I kind of quarantine, I was doing okay, and then I'm air quoting. I air quote a lot in this podcast. Then all of a sudden, air quotes, I was in a depressive state again. But really, I wasn't doing the things I knew I should have been doing for myself. And one of the reasons was money. And I stopped my therapy, and I lied to my therapist. And I said, I'm fine. No, I'm doing great, because I was embarrassed that here I am again. I couldn't afford to do it. And she was so incredible, and she will help me. So it was even more embarrassing that I didn't say anything, knowing that she's willing to help me in the financial portion of it. So I'm so glad you're putting that out there, because money, I don't know statistically, but I would say from my experiences and from talking to other people, is one of the main things that holds us back from getting the mentorship and the support that we really need, and that can really help. It's monumental when you do that. So a little bit more into Essentially Connected, because I did mention before we hopped on to the listeners that you are the creator of Essentially Connected. And I just want to hear about what you do when you help people through your training. I know you do great meditations, because that is why I asked you to talk about forgiveness, because of the one forgiveness meditation you put online. So briefly, if you could just tell us about your training and how you help people in that way. And then I want to go full force into forgiveness and your story.
Great question. Thank you. Just briefly, I'm the creator of Essentially Connected. So that's my business. It's just like a full force, I would say, health and wellness transformation business. The reason why I did name it Essentially Connected, because one vital part of my business, not standalone, but I use it a lot in sessions with clients, especially with men, is essential oils. And one company I partner with and love dearly, doTERRA, again, because I'm a walking testament and using their stuff in my own transformation journey, and really wanting to use everything from natural plant medicine holistically. And I just saw I just feel the transformation and still use them today. Like, I'm a walking testament. So with permission, I always ask the client, can I bring that work into the sessions, into the space? And so that's why the word essentially came from that. And what I realized in using those oils with clients and just sharing them with friends and family, that it's a pivotal point of connection with people. And it's just such a beautiful thing to like share it with people and see like how you start to even form relationships around the oils. Like, some people you don't know, but you create this relationship around that. And so I loved that extra layer that I didn't know was going to come with like working with the oils myself and using them on others. So that's why I named the business Essentially Connected. I may be changing it just because I'm pivoting into working with men. I don't know if that business resonates with men, but it's staying like that now. And honestly, the reason why I started to work with men, because they are disconnected in several different ways from their external issues and their internal issues. So it may make sense actually. So that's what it is. And I, under that umbrella, the services I offer and the tools I use to work with people are using the oils and mostly assisted yoga stretching, which is like, I use my body weight to stretch a client out. Also with myofascial release, really work on releasing the toxins of the connective tissue. And those sessions are private, one-on-one usually, or they have the choice to do private yoga as well, or they can, mix it up by two different packages of both of the services. And really now I'm going into like bringing the coaching in with that around like mindset and transformation coaching. So I guess in a nutshell, I would say we clarified their pain points, and then we come into the physical work. Well, first clarify their pain points to get them to have me get clear and them get clear on what is not working and what's causing them such disdain, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And then I will say we actually start more with meditation and breath work. So that's why I love guiding people in meditation, because that is a vital place to go. It's medicine. Like I said, it's medicine definitely for mental health, sustainability. And so we just definitely go in there and really teaching people to harness their breath to relieve anything. The breath brings us back, our nervous system back to homeostasis. So everything's balanced, because usually we're functioning more the fight or flight stage. And then we really go into the physical work. And I usually bring that all in together in one session, or maybe we can just start small with just meditation. And then when I get them open, go into that. And now I'm pivoting on bringing something like that online for I have a Facebook community of men, and it's called the Wellness Joint, right? Kind of a takeoff of Spike Lee's joint, So it's called the Wellness Joint, and it's on Facebook. And like these men are really like showing up for themselves to really find out and search deeper on like not only just getting stronger, getting more mobile and flexible, and getting well within their own self-care practices or creating some self-care practice, but really searching for deep inner transformation so they can show up as the man they envision themselves to be, as the king they envision themselves to be. And that's their birthright. And men don't necessarily always realize that. And it's a hard place for them to be vulnerable. And so I think that's where my expertise comes in, because I don't look as strong as I am, but when I work with them, I'm actually physically stronger than what they think I am, and very surprised by that, and end up having a high respect for that. But I also bring in a feminine energy and create a safe space for them to be vulnerable. And so I'm really working to create that online now.
What you are tackling, when I first saw that health and fitness training for men, I thought, I have about 10 plus years in my professional training in Pilates. And I don't know if you knew this, I was a fitness trainer for 10. So that was my full time for a long time. And when I saw that, I literally wanted to bow down to you because I thought, this is one, she is tackling this challenge full force, and I applaud her for that. And two, I thought, wow, she gets it, because that is so essential. And that is the word. And I thought that I made that connection. I love the connection between the oils now too, but I really do feel it's essential for them, because to get them to tap into their personal and tap into their vulnerable states and tap into something beyond the physical, it is a challenge. But you have probably seen for yourself, it's really monumental in their full whole self growth. And they're very grateful after, from the men I've worked with, very grateful for that, and for a person like you in their life. And I love that aspect of it, that you're really focusing on helping to bring that feminine energy to them.
So. Yeah. And for them to source it in themselves and know that we all have it. It's not about a gender thing. You're not going to be seen as a sissy because, you're going to give yourself like a bath with essential oils, or you're going to go to the spa and treat yourself to a massage or a facial or something like that's completely opposite of what's playing out in your normal life, but that can relieve whatever that pain point you're going through, along with the yoga and the stretching and things like that.
You brought in about pain points being the first thing you go through with people that you work with. So let's go right into what you have to share with us about forgiveness. You shared a great story with me that I thought, again, was a really nice example. I really think it would help them to understand the final part of the podcast, which will be the forgiveness meditation, and work on that within themselves to help them to move forward from any pain points.
Yeah, absolutely. This definitely ties into why I'm a huge stand for men, like you said, because once men show up in their masculine and in their feminine, and in, you know, being vulnerable and also providing and like shape shifting into those spaces, the world shifts. You know, imagine how many men would be different as partners or lovers or husbands if they knew they were safe enough to be vulnerable. Like it was okay. You know, it's okay. They're not going to be teased. I am such a stand for them and for this work because of my own trauma around my dad and men. You know, I actually just found this out like a few years ago that my mom and dad got divorced when I was 8 years old. You know, I end up having a really huge, this all makes sense now. I end up having a really huge crush on my third grade teacher, Mr. Walker. I'll never forget it. And my mom used to tease me all the time, like, you love Mr. Walker, Mr. Walker, Mr. Walker, Mr. Walker. But he was the only masculine energy in my field, like at that time, because my mom and dad got divorced. I was very close with my dad. I have memories of him from when I was a baby, like him taking me grocery shopping and everything. I was just always with him. And because he doesn't know how to express himself emotionally and be vulnerable, he's better now, but like at that time too, and he was going through his own trauma and pain points from this divorce and everything else. He didn't continue to forge a relationship with me. He just kind of like vanished. And he was in the military too, so he always traveled anyway. And so now his trauma is playing out, and now it's affecting me. And now I'm playing out my trauma because, you know, I so desperately want a relationship with that masculine energy, with that father who teaches you everything. And so now that has played out in my relationships with men so many different ways. And it was unhealthy, you know? And looking back on that, I didn't realize it then, you know, because sometimes I would like go off on people in email, be a keyboard warrior, or like getting wrapped into things with men who are unavailable and be mad at them about it. And I'm like, oh, I can't be mad. I knew what I was jumping into, but you know, like playing the victim, more or less, from my own trauma. That like it comes back to, you don't know what you don't know. And I didn't know it was from that until I started going into therapy, you know, and started looking into these things and being okay with like facing them. I had to unravel so much trauma from that. And this is where the forgiveness is. So had to exercise so much forgiveness around both of my parents, and especially around him, because he tried to come back into my life a few different times of my life. But the straw that like broke the camel's back of us not talking for several years, over 20 years, was I asked him to be a co-signer on a loan to get me back into FIT. Because at the time my mom couldn't do it because she had so much like debt from like her other business. And I needed a co-signer on my student loan just to get me back in. I didn't ask him for money. I was like, I'm coming to you for this. And he told me no. And I was heartbroken. I was devastated. But it was the best decision he ever made, because it made me be like, I'm getting back in school and I'm going to commit and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. But on the same time, I kind of had this subconscious thing of like, I can't stand men because now I can't even depend on them. Now I have to be self-sufficient and be like that angry Black chick, air quotes, like you said, of like, I don't need a man type of thing, because now I've asked this person who's supposed to be my caretaker that hasn't been there and won't even do this for me. Right. But complete victim, like, you know, he's still human. And so doing so much forgiveness of work around him, I had to realize that he's one human, a spiritual being living his human experience. He has trauma he's dealt with. He has trauma that has happened, that has played out in our relationship and his just relationship with women in general. And him not being willing to work on it, I see that, but from a non-judgment place. So forgiving him, doing so much work around forgiving him, has allowed me to not only open my heart, and that was like one of the end things, goals and momentum when I was there, to forge a relationship with him again. And that's where it started. So his lack of vulnerability and like his kind of like monotone place that he always holds in life, now I'm like, it's okay. It led me to like so much acceptance, so much compassion and empathy and kindness for just like his journey, his flaws, his trauma. and now I'm okay. But when you're a child, sometimes it's hard for you to like look at your parents like that, because they're like your parents. They're like Superman and Superwoman, like they can do no wrong and make no mistakes. And like they're supposed to take care of me. So my adult woman self and my inner child had to do so much forgiveness work around him. But you know what? I wrote in my journal today, forgiveness gives me so much freedom. And I've heard this quote so many times. I don't know who said it. I've heard it from different people. Like, we practice forgiveness for us, not for the other person, not for the situation, for us. And I think, and then looking back at my own experience, is really to give us that freedom, to liberate us from that anger, that resentment, that vengefulness of wanting to get back, or whatever we want to, however we're feeling in this moment. We don't have a close relationship, but we've gotten to a good point. And because of meditation, and because of doing a lot of work around forgiveness with my therapist and with just other healers, my acupuncturists, everybody, like I got a whole team. I'm like at a really settled place around my experience with my father. And the trauma feels really healed. And now I can even see that of how I show up with men just in general. And so to be of service to men in this way is such a deep honor. It's such an honor, because I see and have felt, and I see it, what they go through internally and externally, just having all the pressure externally from having to show up and always provide and be perfect and be masculine and be the alpha male, and just not to show emotion, and to like make sure and be a leader and make sure everybody's good and taken care of, but that can come with burnout, stress, anxiety, alcoholism, drug use. So many things could like spiral if they're not like in a place of like, I get to take care of myself and fill my cup up and deepen my own self-love and self-care journey. And then their own insecurities from like, am I showing up enough? Am I doing enough? I know careers are very important to men. Am I making enough money? Where's my career at? Like they're just going through such a lot, like a lot. And so imagine if like every man had me in their life to like hold them accountable and work on these things with them, like they would show up differently as a leader, as a father, like I said, as a lover, a partner, a husband, a brother, all the hats they wear, and it literally shifts the world. I know my father would have been different, and my experience with men would have been different had he like stepped into some work with a healer or a practitioner or somebody, even a therapist, just to work on himself.
You are a beautiful soul. I just have to say that the whole time you're explaining this, Joi. Also, it's such an interesting perspective that I will admit I've never given them that grace to accept that men are human. They may not feel as apt as others might, to work on their self-love, as you said, and things like that. And it really can make I love how you said that, it can make a huge shift. And I think about how great it could be for relationships, how great it could be to just feel supported as a whole in the world. You're on to a really incredible and impactful thing here. So I'm really glad about that. I had two questions. You had answered the one that our listeners, I want to point out, you had mentioned the forgiveness work. And I was curious, well, what exactly was that forgiveness work? But it sounds like the work that happens throughout therapy, the work that happens throughout your own meditative practice, the work that happens through work with coaches and mentors, the work that happens through journaling. It sounds like that commitment, if I'm correct in saying, helped you to do that forgiveness work.
Completely. Absolutely. Or just even stepping into a yoga practice, like, let me work through this energetically in my body. Where am I holding tension? Why does my heart feel really closed? Like I don't want to trust another man with my heart, or trust even my own dad with my heart. Let me, come to this practice and step on the mat and work through it that way too. It's been so many different ways, or even reading about forgiveness too. I read one of my favorite books is The Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo, Having the Life You Want by Being Present to the Life You Have. And I just went back before we had our interview and read back all his passages around forgiveness. And they're just so beautiful. And really being able to, now we have podcasts, but I used to just like go on YouTube and search like different people like talking about forgiveness and how can I explore this theme and this practice more through different healing modalities, so that I can always feel like I can come to it without the struggle, just like surrender and letting go to it.
I had never thought about the whole idea of forgiveness. And as I mentioned to you before, when we were talking about doing this podcast episode, I was like enthralled by your forgiveness meditation that I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never thought about that. It's almost as though how I mentioned earlier about the gratitude, yeah, I'm doing this. I'm thanking everything around me, until I finally started to understand the power in that. And now you've opened my eyes to the power of forgiveness just from that meditation that I saw. So I hope that you continue to just keep spreading all of this love and all of this insight. It's really, I'm really so enamored by you right now, Joi. And I laugh at that word, but I just, you're a beautiful example of how working on yourself, how taking the time for yourself to bring you that happiness, to bring you that inside forgiveness can bring you joy in life and can help you feel peace. And I feel peace just watching you. And I know our listeners can't see you on the video, but I see you and it's just so peaceful. And I'm grateful for that. Before we go, you are going to share a bit of your forgiveness meditation for our listeners to start their own journey in the healing process.
Yes, absolutely. And I will say, like, this is why I'm always a stand for my own transformation, because I want to like internalize the knowledge and then give it back. That's like alchemizing the knowledge into wisdom. And who am I to like be withholding and hold all these beautiful tools and great work in if I'm not going to like share it with the collective? And so that's one reason I'm so honored to be here and share this forgiveness meditation practice with your audience and you, Miss Daniela. So let's just start. Let's jump in. If you are listening right now, come to a sacred place. But also, if you're maybe possibly taking a walk, this can be like a walking, moving meditation. You don't have to be static. Just listen to my voice. If you're walking, take in the fresh air, take in the warmth from the sun wherever you are, or the crisp air wherever you may be. But if you are in a sacred place and in a quiet place that isn't disturbed, see if you can come to your meditation mat, or a sofa or chair is just as fine, or your meditation cushion. If you are sitting in a sofa or a chair, bring your knees hip distance apart. And I invite you to just place your feet on the floor, whether you have carpet or wood floor under you, just place your feet there so that you can completely ground your energy and start to come into the present moment of giving yourself this sacred time to explore what forgiveness may mean to you, what it is. Maybe you never even thought about it. And so everyone, just allow their seat to get heavy wherever you're sitting. And maybe as you take a deep inhale through your nostrils, allow your spine to come and extend up to the ceiling just a bit longer. Notice if you've been sitting, rounding your spine or rounding your shoulders. Open up your shoulders, open up your chest, open up your heart to the discovery in this meditation. And bring your hands to any mudra. Mudra means hand gesture that feels right for you in this moment. So hands can be palms facing up, palms facing down, maybe palms in your lap, right under the left, thumbs to meet is more of a Buddhist chin mudra. Just find what feels connected, what feels comfortable. Just relax your shoulders. And I'll just ask you to do a body scan to see if you're holding on to any tension. Take a deep inhale through your nostrils. Exhaling, releasing through your nostrils or your mouth. Keep going. Inhale. Exhale, connecting with the breath first, feeling the breath, the prana, the life force, we call it, the prana, fueling every bit of your being. Inhale, exhale, releasing any tension in your hips, maybe your shoulders, neck, softening your face, softening that sacred place between your eyebrows, softening your forehead, maybe even letting your lips part open, your jaw part open, your tongue nicely settling in to the bottom of your mouth, giving yourself this time of softness, and maybe approaching the theme of the word, the feeling, the practice of forgiveness from a softer, more inviting, open place. And as you think about that, I want you to actually bring a situation or a person into your heart right now that has challenged you during this time recently, in the past or now. And hold a deep space for them in your heart. No matter how difficult this may seem right now, maybe explore letting yourself, allowing them to rest in your heart. Again, someone that's challenged you, or an experience or a situation that's challenging you right now. And bring it in with the next inhale. Let it settle within you on the next exhale. And just ask yourself, am I willing to forgive them in this situation? And am I willing to see it differently? Inhale. Exhale. Again, ask yourself privately, am I willing to forgive this person, this situation, this experience? And also, am I willing to see this differently? Breathe that into every inch of your being. Exhale any resistance around this question. Hold this question in your heart with that person, and allow yourself to observe what comes up as you settle deeply in your seat, deeply on your meditation cushion and your mat. As you maybe you're outside walking, as you settle into your walking meditation. Just continue to repeat this question, regardless if you come to an answer now, that doesn't matter. Just see if you can explore and settle into even desiring to be an inquiry around this. So inhale. Am I willing to forgive this person, situation, or experience? Exhale. Am I willing to see this differently? And let that land on your being. And as you breathe in and out, keep repeating those questions as your sacred mantra, being open to receive whatever message is going to be downloaded into you in this moment. And being open to receive even after meditation. Because maybe you won't get the answer now. And maybe you get to release attachment around coming to a solution or an answer right now. But just sitting in inquiry, sitting in observation, observing how your body and thoughts are reacting to this practice right now. Inhaling, am I willing to forgive this person, situation, experience? Exhaling, am I willing to see it differently? Let's take a moment to breathe together. You know, sometimes when we're upset and angry and we're triggered, we dive into the story of making it all about us. And what I've discovered in the practice of forgiveness is that it allows us to remove the self-centeredness of our story. It allows us to sit in observation and explore a new perception. It allows us to free ourselves of whatever we're holding on to around it. And it may possibly give you a moment, if only a second, of freedom, of lightness, of liberation around it. Can you feel into forgiving this person, this situation, and this experience? Breathe into that. Inhale with me. Exhale, let it out. Let's sit and just breathe in forgiveness. Exhale, resistance. Breathing in forgiveness. Exhaling anger. Breathing in forgiveness. Exhaling, holding on to anything that's causing any interruption in your spirit around this. Breathing in forgiveness, compassion, love, and empathy. Truly exhaling, releasing, surrendering, letting go of whatever you made up about this person, the situation, or the experience. Again, are you willing to see this differently? Are you willing to forgive? Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. And as we close this meditation out, continue to hold those questions, that thought, the person and the situation in your heart. Feel how you feel now compared to how you felt when we first started. Breathe into that, continuing to soften into the inquiry, continuing to soften into the forgiveness, continue to soften into the surrender, continuing to explore and be in the discovery on forgiveness. I want to thank you so much for allowing me to sit with you and lead you in this sacred practice today. And also for allowing me to explore the theme of forgiveness with you through this meditation. And bring your palms together at heart center in Anjali Mudra, only if that feels connected and right for you. Inhale, breathe into that heart, and exhale. The forgiveness in me honors the forgiveness in you. Namaste.